Great news that hazard pay still does not appear to conflict with anything else that you might get under a second stimulus package. Hey everybody, this is LALATE with a second stimulus check and stimulus package update for today. As always, the second video of our day is about hazard pay, that $10,000 for essential workers who worked during the pandemic and are potentially still working. It's a proposal from the Democrats. It's in the HEROES Act. It's in a subsection called the HEROES Fund, and it's currently in the Senate. In today's video, I'll be going through some questions like eligibility, the amount, the calculation, hourly versus per job, who applies, who is the employer, when and where do you apply, what if you don't apply for it, is it taxable if someone is fired, and what happens if someone dies? A lot of great questions and a lot of great answers. So let's get right to it. If you're by the beach, pull up your Mai Tai and sip along with me. All right, so let's get right to it. Hazard pay, eligibility. The key issue for eligibility of hazard pay is ultimately the bill itself. I have gone through the eligibility criterion for essential workers. It's defined in the bill. If you haven't watched that video, please rewatch it. I will tell you that of the gray areas, and there are a few, there are certain types of jobs that a lot of my viewers are at that are really not clearly defined. So let me go over the gray areas for eligibility. The gray areas, and what I mean by gray areas is I'm saying it's not quite clear if it's defined as essential or not, is Walmart, Target, Costco, Walgreens, CVS, all those type of Sam's Clubs, all those type of stores that are sort of big box retailers that happen to have food in them and happen to have pharmacies in them. Are they essential or not? It's really unclear. That is one of the big gray areas. Why is it gray? First, because pharmacies are essential under the HEROES Act. Groceries are essential under the HEROES Act. But it says the pharmacy itself is essential. The grocery store is essential. And so ultimately, a Walgreens is not a grocery store, but it has a pharmacy in it. So it's really unclear where things like this may land. I'm not here to debate the terms of the essential workers. I'm here to inform you. The next gray area is security officers. The last one is maintenance workers. Maintenance workers is really the strangest one, because it actually says that cleaning people that clean buildings during the pandemic are essential, and that people who do maintenance, well, what is the maintenance? Clearly, plumbing and electricians are maintenance workers, but how about contractors? I get a lot of questions about that. Not particularly clear. Next question, the amount. The amount is so important. I had one viewer who had a great comment, and this is really great news. When the viewers help one another, I love that. The viewer said everyone should start pulling their timesheets. If you think you're an essential worker, start pulling your timesheets. Why? Because this is a big math calculation. It's an easy calculation, but it's a big math calculation. It's based upon the number of hours you work from early January. Just choose January 1st for now because the bill is not finalized, up to the present in these jobs. Yes, you can have multiple jobs that are essential workers. Yes, it includes overtime. It's take that number of hours times 13. That is the amount that is at issue. If you made up to $100,000 last year, you can get up to $10,000. If you made over $100,000 last year, you can only get $5,000. If the amount that I told you to calculate comes in under those two amounts and you're under the thresholds, then you would get a lump sum right now, well, when the bill's passed, a lump sum for that amount, and then thereafter you start getting $13 per hour going forward. It's really quite great news. The calculation of hourly versus per job. So let me answer that question. The bill doesn't talk about per job. It really doesn't. So if you have heard my videos and think I am clearly an essential worker, but I have this problem about hourly versus per job, As one truck driver said in the comments, I know how many hours it takes me to drive the truck, even though I'm paid per job. You need to start doing that timesheet calculation. Ultimately, you don't have to do it now, but if you think the bill's going to pass, or when we hear the bill getting passed, you need to do it right away. So keep all your documents, and so they're ready to go when you make the calculation. Who applies? Oh, I need a sip for this one. The hot mess of the damn bill. I mean, really, it says the employers apply for the employees. Really? It's not their money. It is really a hot mess. Ultimately, if you don't like it, contact your senators and congressmen right now. I don't like it. It is really a hot mess. So that is where it's currently written. Where and when do they apply? It's not open. When do they apply? Again, the worst part of the bill. It says they don't have to apply for you. They could just simply forget about it and skip it if they don't want to. Now, I'm not to create revolts here or riots, but what I would ultimately say is that if you work in a workplace, and there's a lot of you, and you are all essential workers, start talking with your coworkers about this video. Start sharing this video with them and say, hey, we could be entitled to thousands of dollars. Let's get ourselves informed and collective as a group and ensure that our employer applies for us. Because of that, employer does not apply for us, and our boss simply blows it off, well, the group masses can do more than a single voice. Next, what if they don't apply for you? No recourse. It's really quite horrible. The way the bill is written says the employer does not have to apply for you, and if they don't, you have no recourse about it. You can't sue the employer, you can't sue the federal government. I don't know where this is going to land, but that is the way the bill is currently written. Next, is it taxable? I get this question a lot. No. A lot of people are always asking me about taxes for next year. I mean, we're really only at July. So don't be worried about taxes for PPP and EIDL and stimulus checks and hazard pay. We're not there yet. But for hazard pay, no, it is not taxable. Now, the employer may have to pay payroll tax for that amount, but that doesn't concern you. So no, $10,000 could legally land in your bank account and it's not taxable. What happens if I'm fired? What happens if I'm laid off? What happens if I quit? Do I get hazard pay? I get that question a lot. And I got to tell you, a lot of people are going to be asking that question. The answer is yes, you still get the benefits. There is nothing in the bill that eliminates or excludes benefits for hazard pay to people who are fired, laid off, quit, or anything like that. Now, what fundamentally is a big issue is how do you maintain a communication level with an employer that fired you, and then you say, hey, I want my $10,000 for hazard pay, mofo that fired me. It's a little strange. It's a strange situation to go back to an employer that you may not have a good relationship with and say, hey, you got to get my $10,000 for me. Well, they didn't want to keep your job. Are they going to get the $10,000 for you? I don't know. I feel your pain, and I think it's very askewed. I don't know how bad it's going to get. But the point is that you got to prepare for that situation now. Next, a lot of viewers ask me, well, what happens if I have multiple essential jobs? They all apply. So each employer would have, each boss would have to apply for you. Next, what happens if someone died? That surviving a next of kin, or whoever is the surviving individual, surviving spouse or surviving next of kin, they would be entitled to the hazard pay benefits. It actually says it in the bill. It actually says that if someone is deceased, the survivor gets the benefits, the hazard pay. So it's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money. I've detailed this before, and it's a sad thing to go over, but ultimately, I have to say it again, the survivor gets the benefits even if the person died for a reason other than COVID-19. So if you're working as an essential worker, you're entitled to hazard pay, and you died because of a car accident that has nothing to do with COVID-19, the surviving spouse gets the benefits. You don't have to have had the spouse die from COVID-19 for the surviving spouse to get the benefits. The most common question I get in this video and other videos in the last couple days is conflicts. And that's the great news as well. Hazard pay doesn't conflict with anything. It doesn't conflict with PUA. It doesn't conflict with UI. It doesn't conflict with EIDL. It doesn't conflict with PPP. It doesn't conflict with stimulus check. So if you got hazard pay, it doesn't, you don't not, here's a double negative. You don't not get hazard pay because you got something else. So the fact that you may have gotten something else does not disqualify you from getting hazard pay. It's a great news, and it's a very logical scenario. Why? Well, a lot of people were essential workers during the pandemic, and a lot of them have lost their jobs now, and a lot of them are on unemployment benefits. And so the federal government said, well, hey, we are not going to sit back and not give them hazard pay because they are laid off now. So, yes, the fact that you are on some type of other benefits now does not prevent you from getting hazard pay. That's really great news. As of every video, there's always something that's not particularly great news, and I detailed that yesterday. I want to go over it as well again today. The bad news comes from the Republican Party. The Republican Party so far has said nothing about hazard pay. And by not saying anything, it suggests that potentially they don't want to give it to you. Whether it is Mitch McConnell or the fly going in my face or the bird swirling over on the stage left, they're not talking about hazard pay. So when people don't talk about hazard pay, it makes you worried that they don't want to give it to you. What's actually more troubling is what happened on Friday. Steve Mnuchin, who is the Treasury Secretary, he's in the Trump cabinet, came out and said he does not want to give unemployment extension benefits of FPUC of $600 per week. He thinks that's too much money and thinks people are staying at home and they're going to stay at home and get more money than they would have gotten on the job. Now, as you see in that comment, there's no mention of hazard pay. There's no mention of $10,000. But there's a subtext to it. The subtext to it is he doesn't want to give you $600. So do you think Steve Mnuchin is going to give you $10,000? No. He doesn't want to give you $600 because he thinks you are making less money before the pandemic than than now on unemployment assistance. Well, this is quite interesting because if you think about it, if you're asking to give someone $13 an hour supplement over their normal salary for hazard pay, it's a supplement. It's more than they would normally be making. So clearly $13 an hour is more than someone would be making. And if you have the Treasury Secretary on Friday say, we're not going to give people more money than what they were normally making, it directly conflicts. I have more stuff about that that's actually even more troubling. The report that Steve Mnuchin relied upon on Friday talked about janitorial services. Remember, I just said janitorial services are essential workers. They're entitled to hazard pay. Well, the report on Friday that Steve Mnuchin relied upon and said that I don't want to give $600 anymore on a weekly basis for FPUC talked about janitors and said that janitors who have been laid off and are getting $600 a week are making somewhere to 200 to 300% more per week on unemployment assistance than they would normally make employed. Well, there you go. So you have Steve Mnuchin saying, hey, I don't want to pay exactly the essential worker that is defined in the HEROES Act any more than they would normally get. The fact that they worked during a pandemic, who cares? The fact that they're an essential worker, who cares? The fact that they're given more money than they would normally work, I care. I'm not going to give them that money. That doesn't sound good. Ultimately, my job as this channel is to inspire you and keep you motivated and keep you moving and going and educated and informed. But if something negative comes along the line, whether it's from the Democrats, the Republicans, or the White House, I got to tell it to you. And I don't like that. This is ultimately the person who moves the monetary policy of the White House, and the White House is the controlling party in the Senate currently, the Republicans. So it's a big statement that impacts a lot of moving parts. I got to tell it to you. Ultimately, I'm not going to read tea leaves for you, but with Steve Mnuchin saying that he doesn't want to give benefits as supplements to what people would normally get. And hazard pay's entire mechanism is a supplemental process. It's a supplemental pay. It's a thank you. It is a saying thank you for working for Americans during the pandemic as essential workers. Thank you. We applaud you. We want to give you a bonus. Steve Mnuchin comes out on Friday and says, we're not giving people bonuses. This is not American. Boy, it is a big issue. And Mitch McConnell has said much the same as well. So there you go. A lot of great videos today. The second stimulus check, we have a lot of updates. That one, this one, renters assistance, PUA and UI, EIDL, and Q&A on the second stimulus check as the flies start to really attack me. Maybe they came from Louisville, Kentucky. If you have questions in today's video, drop them in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. And coming up shortly, PUA and UI and FPUC, that wonderful thing that everyone needs. But Steve Mnuchin is not wanting to give it to you after July. Let's see how this pans out. As always, stay at LA for more.